The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
It's 9:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC, and we got a show for you today. Friend of the show, Savanna Hernandez, investigative reporter. She is on the ground at the wildfires in California. She'll be joining us around 11:05. And a good friend of the show, Joe Bob, who has an extensive history running political campaigns in California. And now he is a Turning Point USA contributor, really, really smart guy. He's going to break down the politics behind the scenes in California. He says there are so many angles to dive into. So really looking forward to both of our guests. Joe Bob will be on at 10:35, Savanna Hernandez on at 11:05. But the biggest story of the day is these California wildfires. And man, oh man, I was up until it must have been 12:30, 1 o'clock, watching live and local coverage from L.A., on these wildfires. It's absolutely insane what they're dealing with. Absolutely insane. They're covering these wildfires similar to how you would see like Danielle Breezy on Channel 5 covering a tornado. And they're covering the fires this way.
Yeah, it's nuts. I saw a friend that lives out there. She does motorcycle content out there. All that was left was a little portion of her garage. Her motorcycle, surprisingly, was okay. But everything was just ash. And I was like, holy cow.
It's so sad what's happening to these people. And you know what? I don't want to. I'm waiting for press conferences to come out today. I don't want to play a lot from the press conferences yesterday because at this point, with the fire still burning, 15 hours, 16 hours later from those press conferences, the press conference audio is a little bit old. But I will play this one because this still is going to ring true today. L.A. City Fire Chief Kristen Crowley, the DEI hire. That is the L.A. City Fire Chief. She says, what we all understand, these fires are stretching them to their limits.
I'll be touching on a couple major points. With the Pacific Palisades fire, we know that it continues to demand a significant amount of resources and attention. A second major brush fire, now referred to as the Hearst Fire, has erupted in the Sylmar area of Los Angeles. Now, together, these fires are stretching the capacity of emergency services to their maximum limits.
Yeah, they're stretched to their maximum limits. It's a good thing that Mayor Karen Bass of L.A. cut their budget by $17 million a few months ago. Hey, you know what? What do the firefighters need, right? Well, they needed, to be fair, they needed money for homeless shelters and money for illegal aliens, and good. Those homeless shelters that they built are now burned to the ground. Cool. Congratulations. What we're witnessing is the epic fail in real time of liberal policies. The fail that we all knew was coming, but it's here. And Los Angeles looks like a third world country. Honestly, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars for Ukraine. We can really break into the bank for all the money for illegal aliens in this country. Yet the city of Los Angeles doesn't have water in the fire hydrants. Can you make this make sense?
We saw an apartment building engulfed in flames. I saw the fire engine pull up this afternoon. A fire captain have one of his firefighters attach a hose to a hydrant, and that hose didn't fill up, Alex. And I asked the captain, out of every 10 hydrants you attach to today, on average, how many are you getting full water from? He says little to none. And it was at that point that really the whole crew stopped, looked up at this apartment building, and they realized there was nothing they could do except
nothing you can do except essentially pray at that point. Do you understand how demoralizing this is for the fire department? These guys put their life on the line. My grandfather was a firefighter, and so I have nothing but the utmost respect for firefighters. And the guys on the ground there that are putting their lives on the line deserve all of the praise and the respect and our prayers. Honestly, they're doing a thankless job. Do you understand how demoralizing it is for a firefighter to be putting his life on the line? He's leaving his home. Their family could be in those evacuation zones. They have to leave to go to work, and they can't get water out of the fire hydrants. Who would want to stay at a fire department that is prioritizing diversity, equity, and inclusion and doesn't have water in the hydrants? You look at cities like Detroit where everything is on fire and the budget is out of whack. I would rather be a firefighter in the city of Detroit today than Los Angeles. And, that's saying something. There's no water in the hydrants. Talk about demoralizing. There's a manpower shortage. Also, spoiler alert, these same firefighters were forced to take an experimental jab or lose their job. And hundreds of firefighters were fired back in 2022 for not taking that COVID jab.
113 LA City firefighters have been suspended without pay for defying the city's vaccine mandate in November.
Suspended without pay, fired. They were fired for not taking the vaccine.
Firefighters who had not submitted their vaccination status or requested an exemption were informed they would face suspension and termination. The policy requires city employees to be vaccinated by December 18th. The fire department says firefighters who continue to resist the mandate will be entered into the process of termination.
The priorities are so out of whack. Could you imagine your house burning down right now in Los Angeles and the firefighter shows up and could you imagine somebody saying, whoa, 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 whoa. What's your vaccination status, sir? Can I see your COVID papers, please, before you put out my burning home? The fire department in Los Angeles has been treated so poorly for years. Do you think that they're going to have a staffing problem after this? I would imagine so. So they had a COVID mandate and the woke mob culling their staff. Either for refusing the vaccine or, the fact that they had too many white men and their DEI push. So now they're short-staffed as well. And the ones that are on the scene don't have water in the fire hydrants. I saw a video of a firefighter using a street cone, okay, to scoop water out of a pothole, water that was left behind by an airdrop from a helicopter to put out a fire. Even through it all, these guys are still doing everything they can on the ground to put these fires out. But do you understand how demoralizing this is? Do you think a lot of these guys are going to stay on the job after this? How many firefighters in the city of LA do you think are going to continue putting their lives on the line for a city that treats them this way? Honestly, I wouldn't. Would you? Would you put your life on the line for a city like this? I'm not blaming the people, but the leadership is putting them at a complete disadvantage. It's disgusting. This is America. And the second largest city in the country doesn't have water in the fire hydrants. This is not Mexico. This is not Pakistan. This is not Afghanistan. This is not, some country. We're not talking about Haiti. This is America. This is Los Angeles. And there's no freaking water in the fire hydrants. And the liberal news, the leftist liberal news, they're carrying water for the liberal politicians that have drove the city into the ground. We played this during the cross, but I think it's worth playing it again in an attempt to debunk former mayoral candidate Rick Caruso. There's an LA morning anchor on local news there. He goes by the name of Melvin Robert. And old Melvin, he listened to the Rick Caruso audio where they're saying there's no water in the fire hydrants. And he said, listen, you know what? I'm going to debunk that in real time because that conservative Rick Caruso is lying. There's water in the fire hydrants. And then he's rebunked by his own reporter in real time on the ground.
What price for that?
Despite what you have heard from Caruso, no firefighters have told us that they are running out of water.
And let's go out to Gigi Graciette. She is live in Pacific Palisades. I know your signal's not the best, but Gigi, what can you tell us?
Well, firefighters have told me they have no water on this block. And
So the morning anchor gets his directive to say, hey, cover that one up. And then the reporter on the scene, not 15 seconds later, says firefighters on the scene are telling me they have no water. What an absolute shill for the establishment that guy is. What an absolute slime ball. Can a guy like Melvin Robert, an LA morning anchor, lose his gig for lying like that and being exposed in real time? He's lost all of his credibility. He really should pack his things and move on. But this is LA we're talking about, so covering up for leftists is nothing new. But he's debunked in real time. They have no water on this block.
And you may be able to make out the ember storm that we're in the middle of right now. This house going to be a total loss. They have no water to put on this fire.
Oh, I thought that was a lie. I thought that was one of those right-wing conspiracies. No? Oh, your own reporters are debunking you. Oh, okay. And meanwhile, we're seeing just an entire city burned to the ground. Thousands upon thousands of structures, schools, churches, homes. These people are going to be absolutely devastated. And what we're going to see in the aftermath of this, if you want to put on a tinfoil hat, we're going to see our first ever major metro area rebuilt from scratch after this. Listen, I don't know about you, but I'm looking at this. I'm thinking, get ready for America's first ever prototype smart city, right? Get ready for that. I've also seen the conspiracy theories online. They're like, oh, this is Hollywood burning everything down to get rid of the evidence from the Diddy tapes and the Epstein stuff. And I'm like, the FBI has all those files. But if they ever use it as an excuse, I'll definitely find it suspicious. But that's a little too spicy for me. Mayor Karen Bass was MIA during all of this. She was in Ghana on a taxpayer-funded vacation to witness the swearing in of the Ghanaian president, I believe it was. And on her way home, a Sky News reporter caught up with her. And she was woefully unprepared for this reporter. And I think that it's important to point out this is how British media works. I mean, if you ever pay attention to the British tabloids, these guys are just savages. And this takedown of Karen Bass essentially, I do believe, ended her career. This right here is what an assault on live TV looks like.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
Can you back up, please? Appreciate it.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
She has nothing to say. I said this to Murphy yesterday when it broke. I was like, oh, God, this has to be on the air immediately. And I was like, I wasn't near a radio. I was like, man, have you heard this? I was like, knowing him, I was like, you must have. And he's like, oh, my gosh, no. But Murphy said something that he nailed it. The look in her eyes is like when you're yelling at your dog for doing something wrong and they just try to pretend you're not there. She's just looking through him. She doesn't want to answer this man at all because you know what? In all reality, she has no answers. Nothing that she can say is going to change it. This woman, and I put this online last night and somebody said, oh, I hate when we dog on city officials. She's got a team in place that could have handled this. I'm like, she cut the firefighters' budget by $17 million months ago. She's every bit as responsible for this as people say she is. She knows it, and that's why when she's confronted by this Sky News reporter, she has absolutely nothing to say. She stands there in stunned silence.
No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
She's like, sir, I'm on my break. I'm not going to be bothered with this, sir. I'm on my vacation. Okay. Yep, you got it. You got it. That's the mayor of Los Angeles. She's being called out left and right, and she deserves it. But there's a group of people that have been quite silent in the light of the mayor of Los Angeles, and that's the celebrity class of L.A. We'll talk about that when we return. It's 9:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC. If you want to join the show, 615-737-9986. This is WTN.
Well, snow is coming for sure. We'll tell you what time the party gets started. Also, we're watching as the funeral of Jimmy Carter continues this morning. That's all coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan Jones. 9:27 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You want to join the show? 615-737-9986, whether you want to call in or text. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. Great text from Sonia. Or Sonia? Sonia. I'll go with Sonia. Might get corrected. She said, listening to you this morning, and it struck me how easy it would be for our enemies to just light fires in that area. You know what? That thought crossed my mind as well. She said, I was hoping I wasn't just putting the tinfoil hat on. And I said, no. Listen, the tinfoil hat looks good on you for the record. But you can find videos on X today with homeless people lighting fires all over California. There's been reports of guys inside wildfire areas lighting fires where a homeless crazy guy says, it's the right thing to do. What? This is why we need to bring back mental health hospitals and institutions. That we can't have these people walking around in our streets. But to your point, our enemies could be doing this as well. You know, there's been reports of masked men roaming around lighting fires. It would be very, very easy. And also, it's been enabled by the Biden administration, if they were to do it, by that wide open southern border. Be them Chinese or Venezuelan gang members, whoever. It would be very, very easy. You know, we're going to have Savanna Hernandez on the show later on at about 11:05, and she's on the ground in California today at the wildfires. She was there last night and yesterday during the day as well. But the day before, she had to fly into San Diego because obviously, she's not getting into LAX at the moment. So she flew into San Diego, and her first stop in San Diego before she went, 2 hours north and made the drive to where the wildfires are was she always has her camera on her. She stopped at a homeless encampment that has been a hot spot for fires. And as soon as they walked up, they saw the beginnings of a new fire left unattended.
We're looking at a fire right now that has been started. This is a homeless encampment that is known to the city of San Diego. According to someone who works for the fire department in the city of San Diego, reached out to me and said, those apartments right there, if there is a fire and it catches, it's going to run and threaten lives and property here. And we have high wind advisories right now in San Diego County, and people in the back country, which is really just 15 minutes from here, have been warned that their power can be cut off at any moment because of the fire risk. And here we have a fire that has been started, and what we know is 13% of all fires that are started in San Diego are caused by homeless encampments. We just recently had a big homeless encampment fire not too far from here, closer to San Diego State, that burned 40 acres and even touched homes. So unfortunately, these are a common occurrence in San Diego.
Yeah, unfortunately, these are what the liberal policies have created for you in California. Unfortunately. So, listen, it would be very, very easy for our enemies to be lighting these fires. But it's also very, very easy for the homeless that have been enabled to camp on the streets to start these fires as well. It's a crazy situation. Brought to you by the Democrats. It's 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 9:30 now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We are on the cusp of our first snowstorm of the season. Channel 4's Stefano DiPietro tells us the arrival of our wintry weather is a bit sooner than we were expecting.
Timing is a little bit earlier, which would mean it would leave later into the evening and into the early parts of the overnight rather through the overnight hours, but still the middle of our day is really going to be the worst time for the snowfall to come down.
All right, so what time does it start? Well, for the western portions of this listening area, between 2 and 5 tomorrow morning. For Clarksville, Nashville, Murfreesboro, and Manchester, about 4 to 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. And east of our listening area, that would be between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. Channel 4's Brendan Tierney checked in with Nashville Electric Service on the potential for outages.
NES says you should make sure your phones and backup batteries are all charged up in case you do happen to lose power at home during Friday's snowstorm. They've had crews out checking on the power lines and have them on call around the clock through the storm. NES upgraded their system with new technology that allows them to switch the power back on for most homes impacted by an outage without actually sending a crew out there. They say thankfully it looks like Middle Tennessee will just be getting snow because ice creates a lot more problems.
Now, we do know of one closure because of the snow. The Nashville Zoo will be closed tomorrow and Saturday. Anybody with tickets for Zoolumination can request a refund. Fire crews in L.A. desperate to stop the destruction from several major wildfires, including the Palisades fire, as hundreds of homes and businesses burn to the ground.
The Palisades fire grows to over 17,000 acres, becoming the most destructive wildfire in L.A. history. At least 1,000 structures burned in the Palisades and in Malibu, number expected to grow significantly. Roughly 30 miles to the east, the deadly 10,000-acre Eaton fire killing at least 5 people. Entire densely packed neighborhoods erupting in flames.
ABC's Matt Gutman reporting there. The funeral of former President Jimmy Carter is underway at the moment. The former President Ford's son, Stephen, is speaking now. Let's just dip in here and listen for a moment.
And it was your dad and his great faith that supported my mom and gave her hope that week. He traveled with us for several days, and
Stephen speaking to the children of Jimmy Carter sitting next to him in the pews at the National Cathedral this morning. Wall Street is closed today, along with all federal offices. This is a national day of mourning for the former president. The news weather is next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
Can you back up? Appreciate it.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position?
That was a Sky News reporter bringing the heat to Mayor Karen Bass as she was on her way back to L.A. from Ghana. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. I'm reposting a lot of these fire videos on my Twitter account. If you want to see the latest, you can go there and check it out. I got a couple people chiming in on the text line. Somebody said, are there any blue roofs? I think it's referring to one of those conspiracy theories from Maui. You know, blue roofs thwart the space lasers. I haven't seen any. I've actually watched a lot of aerial footage from drones about the areas. No blue roofs. No blue roofs. Though I do wonder, and this I'm just spitballing, when they rebuild, do steel roofs make more sense in an area with wildfires? You know what I mean? Like I have no idea. I'm not a roofer, and I'm not a firefighter. But you know, with the embers flying around, that's what's catching a lot of these houses on fire. I saw at one point a palm tree was lit on fire, and then with the wind blowing, it was essentially raining down embers. And obviously, people in the neighborhood are freaking out because, you know, your house is going to go up. Those embers land on your roof. Before you know it, there's the fire. So I don't know. Would a steel roof fix that? Just curious. I have no idea. But the left doesn't want us to politicize this. Please don't politicize it. And I just think it's important to point out the hypocrisy of the left. Do you remember back in 2021 when Texas had that ice storm and everybody was out of power and Ted Cruz got slammed for being on vacation? Ted was slammed by both the left and the right for being on vacation during that stint, if you recall correctly. Yet I haven't seen any celebrities calling out Mayor Karen Bass for being on vacation. Not one bit. In fact, you know, like we played a clip earlier, local news trying to cover up for what's happening on the ground as a result of these liberal Democrat policies. It's insane. It's insane. Donald Trump on True Social this morning. Fire is spreading rapidly for 3 days. Zero containment. Nobody has ever seen such failed numbers before. Gross incompetence by Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. And Biden's FEMA has no money. All wasted on the green new scam. L.A. is a total wipeout. That's not the first time that Donald Trump has blamed Gavin Newsom. He's been going after him on True Social pretty consistently. And, you know, listen, the blame is there. The blame is there. Trump on True Social. Governor Gavin Newsom refused to sign the water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snow melt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California, including the areas that are currently burning in a virtually apocalyptic way. He wanted to protect an essentially worthless fish called a smelt by giving it less water. It didn't work, but didn't care about the people of California. Now the ultimate price is being paid. I will demand that this incompetent governor allow beautiful, clean, fresh water to flow into California. He is the blame for this. On top of it all, no water for fire hydrants, not firefighting planes. A true disaster. A true disaster. He's right, you know. He's right. Continues. As of this moment, Gavin Newsom and his Los Angeles crew have contained exactly 0% of the fire. It is burning at levels that even surpassed last night. This is not government. I can't wait till January 20th. None of us can. 11 days. 11 days. Trump, you know, to his credit, Trump gave a press conference before Mayor Karen Bass did. I know. Yesterday on Capitol Hill, last evening, Donald Trump spoke to the press about the fires.
Well, it's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt. And for the sake of a smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing. And we're going to get that done. It's going to finally be done. I got it done from the federal side. and he didn't want to sign it, but it's not going to happen again like that. There's no reason. Can you imagine? You have farmers that don't have any water in California. They have plenty of water. They don't have a drought. They send it out to the Pacific, and it's crazy. So what's happening in California is a true tragedy. I know those areas very well. I have many friends living in those houses. That is a true tragedy. Nobody ever thought. I mean, virtually Beverly Hills and areas around Beverly Hills are being decimated. The biggest homes, some of the most valuable homes in the world are just destroyed. I don't even know. You know, you talk about a tax base. If those people leave, you're going to lose half your tax base of California.
He's right. And listen, you're going to witness the red pilling of quite a few very, very far left progressives. Because, you know, they're going to try and rebuild, like Adam Carolla was saying on his podcast, and then they're going to go through the permit process. They're going to understand the regulations that are being imposed by the government, and they're going to go, what? I'm out. They're not. They're not going to come back after this. Are you kidding? I mean, I'm watching videos right now. Firefighters, I'm going to retweet this if you want to check it out, at Chris Hand on Air. Firefighters are running up to a pumper truck, and they're filling up handbags with water. And then they're running over to the fire, and they're dumping the water from what looked like a purse, honestly. Looked like a woman's purse onto the flames. This is what the city of Los Angeles has been reduced to. Are you kidding me? I'm not making this up. You can see the video for yourself at Chris Hand on Air. The truth is stranger than the fiction. Donald Trump continues.
This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water. They didn't have water in the fire hydrants. They don't have water. And yet they have, the water comes from, you know where? Up north. And it comes down at levels, they give millions and millions of barrels of gallons of water that they have, and they send it out into the Pacific. For the Pacific, it's like a drop, it's nothing. But for California, it would take care of the whole state. So what's happened is a tragedy, and the governor has not done a good job. With that being said, I got along well with him when he was governor. We worked together very well, and we would work together. I guess it looks like we're going to be the one having to rebuild it. But what happened there, I don't think there's anything that I've ever seen quite like it. And the insurance companies are going to have a big problem, because you're talking about big, big dollars.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, let's be honest. If you do have fire insurance, which many of the residents, their fire insurance has been canceled, what? You got a $6 million home, and what are they going to cut you a check for? $600,000? Yeah, I'm sure that's going to help them rebuild. It's an absolute embarrassment to our country what's happening in California right now. The second biggest city in the country doesn't have water in the fire hydrants. I don't know how you can stress this enough. It's insane. It's insane. This isn't a new problem. Trump was talking about this on the Joe Rogan podcast back in October. Like, this isn't something that popped up and they're like, whoa, we didn't see it coming. Trump tried to tell them in 2018. They had these conversations in 2020, 2021. Back in October on the Joe Rogan podcast.
They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why do you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow from Canada all the way up north. Water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Millions and millions of gallons of water gets poured. I could have water for all of that land, water for your forests. You know, your forests are dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Okay?
Dangerous.
That water could be routed. You know, you could have everything. Oh, not only dangerous, billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires. And, you know, there's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it. And all they have to do is clean their forest, meaning rake it up, get rid of the leaves, get rid of, leaves that are sitting there for 5 years. And
we'll certainly get rid of the deadfall.
And get rid of the trees that are fallen.
Yeah.
That, are like.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you have to do. Maybe it was too expensive for California. Maybe California decided that it would be cheaper to let wildfires burn and then get the federal money after the fact from FEMA. Maybe that's their thought process. I don't know what their thought process is. The more you look at the situation, you understand, do they even have a thought process? Did they think about this at all? People have been highlighting the issues here for years and years and years. But don't worry. Joe Biden's on the scene. Joe Biden was on the scene yesterday. And Joe says, you know, the entire federal government, they're coming in to help.
The governor asked for a declaration. Provides for everything from the government solution. We're signing today. Folks, the fact is that I've directed DOD, Department of Defense, to rapidly provide additional firefighting personnel and capabilities. Also, California National Guard is adding 2 modular air firefighting systems units, and 2 more are being ready for the National Guard, the Nevada National Guard.
So he's reading off a cue card, all the things that he's going to do, in all honesty, because he doesn't know what is being done. Joe is a vegetable. I'm surprised he can read off that cue card. He said we're prepared to do anything and everything as long as it takes to contain these fires and help reconstruct. And I'm like, oh, great. Don't worry, everybody. The government's here to help. And I just want to point out, just like you helped after Lahaina in Maui, they're still rebuilding. The government's here to help, just like they helped in East Palestine, Ohio. Have you seen East Palestine after that train crash? It's essentially a utopia now after the government's gone in and helped. You know, don't worry, guys. The government's here to help, just like they helped in eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. Those people are still homeless as a snowstorm is barreling towards them. Another one? Oh, that's nice. Speaking of the government here to help, hey, in 24 hours, guys, FEMA is going to be kicking 3,500 families in western North Carolina out of hotels in the middle of a massive snowstorm. This is what it looks like when the government's here to help.
Thousands of western North Carolinians hit by Helene where it often hurts the most, housing. Some families left with nothing except the clothes on their backs. FEMA putting up nearly 13,000 of them in hotels. But when the federal program ends on Friday night, many of them will have nowhere to stay. That's when Rogers and ABCCM come in.
Yeah. Did you hear that? The federal program to help the people in western North Carolina, that runs out Friday. So as the snowstorm heads towards western North Carolina, the second that they've had to deal with in as many days, well, you know what, guys? Hey, just know this is the government helping. So when Biden says that the government's going to help in California, if I'm a California resident, I'd just say, please no. Please no. Just stay as far away as you can and stay out of our business as much as you can. Please, for the love of God, stay away. That's what I'd be saying. It's 9:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know, the government's not going to come to save you, and it doesn't matter what situation you're looking at. You don't want the government coming to save you. When it comes to personal protection, you got to really rely on yourself, and that's why I rely on the Glock store when it comes to purchasing my firearms and when it comes to training for with my firearms. I do it at the Glock store. I do it inside a private shooting room inside the shoot270.com indoor training rooms. When you train, you want to do it in a private shooting room with a personal instructor, not at a lane range with multiple lanes and some stranger shooting next to you. Do it at the Glock store. Do it in the shoot270.com indoor ranges. And an exciting deal for you in the new year all month long. When you book a shooting session at shoot270.com, you get to shoot a full auto H&K suppressed MP5 just by mentioning my name. All you got to do is buy the ammo. I shot this firearm. You can watch the video on the Glock Store Facebook page. It is fantastic. And you get to shoot it for free just by mentioning my name at the incredible, incomparable shoot270.com. You can book your session there. The Glock Store, only in Nashville. It's my place to train. Minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere. Book your session today, shoot270.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
We'll take a look at the preparations underway for our Friday snowstorm. Also, the funeral still underway for former President Jimmy Carter. We'll take a listen. Those stories at 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yes, and that was my reaction yesterday as I heard Joe Biden saying, we got the full weight of the federal government coming in. And we're going to help you. It's like, oh, gosh. Like you helped in Maui. Like you helped in East Palestine. Like you helped in Eastern Tennessee, Western North Carolina. No thanks. That's what I would feel. No thanks. I want you as far away as possible. Keep your $700 checks, which we know are incoming. Keep those. Just stay out of my way when I want to rebuild. We've heard the horror stories of rebuilding in Western North Carolina. They've been detailed on this station ad nauseum. And make no mistake about it, we're going to see more horror stories of people trying to rebuild in California. If they can. If the insurance companies want to even cut them a check. If they have fire insurance at all. Absolutely insane. But don't worry. Joe Biden's there. Now, yesterday during his presser, he didn't go full Maui. He didn't say, I had a house fire too one time. He didn't. Remember that in Hawaii? He had the audacity when people's children had died to say, we had a fire too, and I almost lost my Corvette. Do you remember that? He didn't do that yesterday, but it was almost as bad. He's giving a press conference with the governor of California, Newsom, and he says, hey, guys, you know what? There's a silver lining in all of this. There's some good news.
What's happening? All I want is good news. My son was out there anyway. They got a notification yesterday that their home was about to burn around. Today, he's still standing. I'm not sure. But the good news is, I'm a great grandfather as of today. Baby girl.
Wow, the tone deafness of 46. Hey, guys, you lost everything? There's no water in the fire hydrants? But I'm a great-grandpappy. Huh? Everybody happy for me? Let's clap for Joe. Let's clap for Joe, everybody. It's 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello there. It's 10 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. The winter storm that's headed our way is going to have quite a punch. Channel 4, Stefano DiPietro.
We have had a little change in some areas. There actually could be a little mixing south of Interstate 40 now. So that is something we'll need to watch very closely because it could impact the snow totals in those areas. But snow is going to arrive early in the day on Friday, but it should end earlier now Friday evening and into Friday night. That will give road crews plenty of extra time to play some catch-up going into Saturday.
Now, generally speaking, we'll get about 4 to 6 inches and perhaps some mixing with freezing rain in the far south regions. Well, FEMA has declared a state of emergency ahead of that storm. Director Patrick Sheehan tells Channel 4 that today would be a good day to get stocked up on groceries so you don't have to make that trip to the store once the storm begins.
We hope Tennesseans will just continue to monitor your forecasts. Again, there's no reason to panic. We have the luxury of time. The forecast is pretty consistent at this point, so prepare now. So we talk about the 4 Ps: people, pets, pipes, and plants. So make sure you have a plan and that you're taking action to check on your family members and your neighbors.
So what about the airport? Well, they're ready for the wild weather tomorrow.
We're 100% supplied. All of our equipment is ready to go. And for us, we'll start at midnight tonight with pre-treating all the roads, ramps, and runways out here, waiting for the snow to start.
That's Doug Krulin, president of the airport. He tells the Dan Mandis Show he can't control whether planes are delayed, but he will make sure the taxiways and runways are in good shape. Underway right now at the National Cathedral, the funeral service for former President Jimmy Carter. And following today's services, he'll be buried back in his home state of Georgia. And one thing you can scratch off your to-do list today, going to the post office. The Postal Service is not delivering mail today in honor of the late former President Jimmy Carter. Today is National Day of Mourning, too. So the U.S. Supreme Court, the stock market, the government offices, they're all closed today. Bond markets are open for a shortened session. That's the latest news. We've got weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
It's 10:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? It's Chris Hand. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on air. On my Twitter account, I posted this picture of my daughter, my 2-year-old. She busted into my office yesterday. She busted in. She runs up to me. She goes, "Dad, made a Trump flag for you." I said, "You did?" And it's a flag made out of like Legos. It's like one of my followers said, "It's the best Trump flag you'll ever see." So fact check, true. If you want to see that, that's on my Twitter account as well. Plus a lot of footage from what's happening in Los Angeles, which is really the meat and potatoes of the thing. I mean, what we're seeing is just insanity. That's putting it lightly. You got firefighters scooping water out of potholes with traffic cones to put out fires. I've seen videos of firefighters running up to the pumper truck, and I only know it's a pumper truck because I got little kids and I've read these firefighter books quite often, and my grandfather was a firefighter, but they're running up to these pumper trucks and they're filling up handbags of water, purses, and then they're running with this to put out a fire maybe 10 yards away, 15 yards away. What? Then you wonder if any of these firefighters are going to stay on when their next deal comes up. I wouldn't. The way this city treats them. Unbelievable. But there's two stories happening at once. You have the people, and then you have the politics. And the politics are going crazy. Because you can clearly point to many instances where people have brought up solutions for the California wildfires, and those solutions were ignored. Either be it getting water to these affected areas and how to, or cleaning up the dead wood and the fuel and the tinder that's on the forest floor in some of these places. It's been explained to Gavin Newsom ad nauseum for years, yet nothing was done about it. Donald Trump calls him out. Donald Trump wants him to resign. Called on him to resign last night. He's been calling him out nonstop on Truth Social. Gavin Newsom was asked about this on air by Anderson Cooper on CNN. And a flabbergasted Gavin Newsom, well, he says, I can't even respond to this right now. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? Hold on one second. 2 audio sources playing at once. Here we go. This is Gavin Newsom and Anderson Cooper, and they always stage the scene too on CNN. They got it. Oh, let's move a little bit to have you right in front of the burning building. It feels like performance art to a certain extent. I was talking to my wife, and I just got sidetracked. I was talking to my wife last night. There's 2 different styles of reporting right now. We're going to have Savanna Hernandez on the show. She's an investigative journalist. She's on the ground, and she's talking to the residents of these areas about what's happening. And I much prefer her style of reporting than I do local news. Local news, and even national news in this case with CNN, it just feels so performative. Like, ooh, let's stage this shot right in front of the burning building because we got to make sure that, people understand what's going on. So where Savannah is on the ground and she's just talking to people, and, it's just more organic and authentic. It doesn't feel authentic in some of these live shots, be it local LA news or national news with CNN. It just feels kind of slimy. But anyway, Gavin Newsom is on CNN, and he's asked about Trump's comments criticizing him for the fires, which is well-deserved, and Trump calling on him to resign.
I hate to even ask this question, but the president-elect chose to attack you, blame you for this.
One can't even respond to it. I mean, it's people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say. I won't. I stood next to a president of the United States of America today, and I was proud to be with Joe Biden. and he had the backs of every single person in this community. He didn't play politics, didn't try to divide any of us.
Oh yeah, he didn't play politics, Joe Biden. No, Joe didn't even know he was there. Joe didn't even know he was there. Joe said, "Don't worry, I'm from the government. I'm here to help."
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah, that's what Joe Biden essentially said. And he also said, by the way, I'm a grandfather. You know, that's a real leader. That's a real leader. And I point out the absolute hypocrisy, because you look at what's happening in Western North Carolina, where people are going to be removed from their hotel rooms tomorrow as a snowstorm barrels towards them. The second in as many weeks. Yeah. You stood next to a real leader. A real piece of, well, you know. I know what I want to say, but I won't, to quote Gavin Newsom. Okay. Yeah, he's upset that Trump called him out. He can't handle the truth of the matter. And the truth of the matter is, you knew exactly what you needed to do to fix these fires. And you failed. Much like the diversity, equity, and inclusion mayor has failed. She's failed her city. She cut the firefighters' budget by $17 million months ago. And when she tries to give a press conference after returning from her taxpayer-funded vacation to Ghana, she can't even accurately give the citizens of her city a website to go to for help.
Right now, if you need help, emergency information, resources, and shelter is available. All of this can be found at URL. Los Angeles, together is how we will get through this.
Wait. Where can we find that information?
Is available. All of this can be found at URL.
Oh, your intern didn't update the script. Nice. And she didn't even have the wherewithal to notice it. If you listen to the whole thing, there's not a hiccup. She just keeps going. These people are robots. No original thoughts. There's no brain in the head that God gave them.
Is available. All of this can be found at URL. Los Angeles, together is how we will get through this.
I'm from the government and I'm here to help. This is what the people of LA, the people of California have for leadership. People wonder why there's a mass exodus out of California. Also, Tennessee's full. Sorry. Try Alabama. The exodus is going to continue. Real James Woods on Twitter. Our friend James Woods. He's very upset. He lost his home in the fire. He knew that these California politicians and these city officials were ignoring what needed to be done. His home burned down. It burned to the ground. Liberals mocked him on Twitter. They mocked him. And he said, you know what? The city officials, they've been too prioritized on DEI. And he's absolutely right. Who do you want coming to your home to save you if there's a fire? Well, you want the best firefighter for the job. But you know what? In the city of LA, firefighters were just too white and too male. Honestly, NPR actually ran a story in June of 2023. Firefighting is mostly white and male. A California program aims to change that. I don't care if the firefighters are white and male. I care if the firefighters are competent. If you give me 20 jacked ladies that are going to be able to carry me from a third-story window down a ladder, I'm fine with it. That's okay. That's great. I just want to be saved if there's a fire. But the fire chief has been focused on DEI and not focused on preparing her city in case of wildfires, as evident by the lack of water in the fire hydrants.
No water in the hydrants. 17.6 million cut from the fire department. Karen Bass, a recent headline, I think you might have tweeted that out from the New York Post.
Yeah. And our new fire chief, has, and by the way, LA Fire Department is fantastic. The people, it's like the people who work for the federal government, so many of such good people, but the people in charge, she took over And she put on her bio that her priority, my highest priority, is inclusion, diversity, and equity. That is my priority. And somebody forgot to fill all the reservoirs, I guess, with water, because when I was getting smoke alarms, there was a fire truck parked in front of my house. But they couldn't pump any water because there was none, because they didn't put them in the reservoirs.
How many firefighters are going to stay on the job after this in L.A.? Honestly. I mean, hey, if the fire department's too white and male, I wonder if that problem is going to solve itself come the next contracts. Because what kind of firefighter wants to put themselves in the line of fire, honestly, no pun intended, and then not have any tools to fight the fire? I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want my sons to do that. Would you?
Okay? And they were busy cutting, look, it's the same we had with all the crime we have in our neighborhood, in Los Angeles. When we had that idiot Gascon, they just didn't care. Everybody was running loose. They were smashing places. You couldn't walk down the street.
A return to competent leadership. This may be a wake-up call. We're not trying to make this political.
But it is political. You don't have to make it political. It is. It very much is. There's another angle to it, and it's the people, right? Like, there's two stories happening at once. There's the politics of it, and then there's the people of it. Savanna Hernandez is going to be joining the show at 11:05. She was interviewing the people on the ground in California. This is an Altadena resident, and they're talking about these fires, and it's like the actual heartbreaking reality of it. It's just so sad. You're witnessing people lose everything, and they're not going to get it back. And it's heartbreaking when you hear of one family losing everything in a home. You have neighborhoods, thousands and thousands of people affected by this. And you can hear the pain in their voice.
The fire hydrants this morning at 8 a.m., there was one firefighter truck on our street. He could not pull any water from that. And so we started pulling construction businesses with big water trucks coming into our neighborhoods. Several of our neighbors have pools that we pulled from. We put out a hotspot across the street from us that probably saved our house. I've never seen fire choosing to jump what house is going to be gone and what house is saved. Major grocery stores are gone. Businesses who have been here since early 1900s, gone. It's gone.
It's all gone. It's all gone. Again, I said this earlier, but I think it bears repeating. We're seeing what could be for the first time in modern history, a major metropolitan area is going to have to be rebuilt from scratch. From scratch. Second largest city in the country. No big deal. And I just want to say, hey, smart city incoming. Smart city incoming. If you know, you know. But Los Angeles residents are frustrated, and rightfully so. And this resident is upset about the response to the fires. And I think it's important that the blame can't be entirely put on the fire department. A lot of those guys, the overwhelming majority of rank and file, they're doing everything they can. But you understand why residents like this man is frustrated over the city's response.
Started with one house up on the top. Within the hour, with the winds, it spread all the way down to Edgecliff. And by the time I left, the place was empty. I was the last one out with the dogs. Not one fire truck.
How long had the fire been burning for at that point?
At least an hour and a half.
No fire trucks?
No fire trucks.
No helicopters?
No, nothing. They said the helicopters couldn't because of the wind, the air. They couldn't get too close. But I mean, if they pass by and at least spray so the fire doesn't continue coming up the street. But there was nothing. Nobody was around, nothing. Until this morning, I guess.
I mean, it's heartbreaking, but you have to understand, too, the absolute size of this fire. No matter how many firefighters you have, even if you're bringing them in from other cities, you can't be everywhere at once. Like, that's just the heartbreaking reality of it. So I understand the frustration with the fire department, but the reality of it is that a lot of this could have been avoided. A lot of it could have been avoided. It's really sad, man. Really sad. On the way, 10:35, We're going to talk more about the politics of the situation. My friend Joe Bob, Turning Point USA contributor, he actually used to run political campaigns in California. He's very, very smart when it comes to that process. And just the absolute chaos that goes on behind the scenes. He's going to break it down for us. He's going to join us live on Super Talk TV, so you'll be able to see Joe Bob as well. And then at 11:05, we'll talk to Savanna Hernandez, who's been on the ground at these fires. She is fearless. So we got some great guests on the way. Hang out with us. It's 1021 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, and listen, we got snow coming. And most people, they're thinking about, got to get my bread, got to get my eggs, got to get my milk. Who doesn't like a good milk sandwich when the snow's falling? But when the snow melts, you know what comes after that, right? Water. And if you have an issue with waterproofing, you need to call the best. Call USS. United Structural Systems are your experts in waterproofing, and they've been doing it in Middle Tennessee since 1994. That's why they have 30,000 satisfied residential customers. And if you have the tiniest of cracks in your basement, when that snow melts, that water could be ending up in your home. Or how about this? Even a worst case scenario. What if your pipes burst and that water remains unseen? It can turn into even bigger problems like mold, wood rot, and the need for structural repair. You got to stay ahead of that water damage. Call USS. United Structural Systems are bringing with them 30 years of experience in basement and crawl space waterproofing, and they can do it for you. Call them today at, you can find them online at USSTN.com, USSTN.com.
We're going to take a look at the preps going on at the airport for tomorrow's snowstorm. Also, what a New York court has just decided regarding President Trump's hush money case. That's coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan Jones. 10:26 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. On the way, 10:35. Our friend Joe Bob is going to be joining the show to give us a little background insight into the politics of California. Is it as chaotic as it seems and absolutely incompetent as we see? I think, spoiler alert, it's going to be a yes, but Joe Bob will fill us in more. He's got extensive experience in the politics of California, so I'm really looking forward to his insight. But the scenes coming out of California just absolutely insane. I saw one last night. The entire street is burning down around these individuals as they're walking 3 horses down the street. Yeah, people fleeing the wildfires with their horses.
Honestly, I did not pay attention. I just drove straight to the barn to get my horses out and get the rest of these guys out. We're not just going to let them burn.
I got a bunch out with trailers, and there's a bunch in there still. How many more? We don't know. I don't know how many. How many did you let out?
We took about 4 of them in trailers, 2 in a different trailer, 3 in another one. So there should be at least maybe 12.
About 12? Are there more people out there right now?
It's the whole bar.
Look down and down to get these out. I got, let's see. So there's 4, 2, 3, what is that, 9? How are these horses doing? 11, 12. There's 12. Yeah, no, they're pretty wired up. Yeah. They're getting used to it now, but when the wind's blowing and the embers are, they don't really know what to do at first. Have you seen anything like this? Look at that hillside. Yeah, I've rescued before. Yeah? Yeah.
I like how she says, have you seen anything like this before? And she's like, I'm from California, yes. Yes, I have, actually. I've rescued these before. But, I mean, the absolute bravery of the people on the ground to be going in there and grabbing these horses to get them out, it's just wild, man. Wild. Never seen anything like it. And if California doesn't get their act together, I don't know if we're going to be able to say, we'll never see anything like it again. It's like, if you don't get your act together, I'm sure we'll see this again. One guy says he never even got an evacuation notice, which is crazy. He said never got the evacuation notice.
Coming down, we've been out here since 5 o'clock, and all you see is just raining hellfire.
When did you get the notification for an evacuation?
We never did. Over here, never got the evacuation notice. Even when we got here, it was not there.
And have you seen any fire crews here? I see an engine company down there.
Yeah, we see them going up and down the street, but not helping us.
Right. Well, there simply aren't enough around. Listen, your name is?
James.
Last name is?
Day.
D-A-Y?
D-A-Y.
Good luck to you, James. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I understand the frustration when he's like, I see the fire trucks, but they're not helping us. It's like, there's just so many. There's so many fires. And these poor firefighters, there's no water in the hydrants. What in the world has happened to this country? Money for Ukraine, no problem. Money for illegal aliens, we got it. No water in the fire hydrants. It's embarrassing. The state of our country is embarrassing. We're 11 days away from getting real leadership back in this country. On the way, we're going to talk with Joe Bob at 10:35. Right now, the headlines with Joan Jones on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 10:30 now, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. The National Weather Service is prepping for the snowstorm that is headed our way.
A winter storm warning is in effect Friday and through Friday night, all the way into Saturday morning, actually. Many of us are going to end up with 4 to 6 inches of snowfall. However, this is something we haven't talked about too much in the last couple of days, but now it is looking like there could be a little mixing possible in southern Middle Tennessee, which means that could impact the snow totals in those areas.
Stefano DiPietro from Channel 4. Need to go to the airport during tomorrow's snowstorm? Well, BNA President Doug Crulin has some advice.
I'd get here 2 hours early, but before coming, I'd also check with my airline to see if they, if you're going to Dallas, the flight from Dallas may not have come in. So check with your airline to see if there's any delays. if you're going north or south.
He tells the Dan Mandis Show they'll start at midnight, pre-treating the roads, ramps, and runways. New York's highest court has just declined to block Donald Trump's sentencing in his hush money case.
The Thursday morning ruling by the State Court of Appeals leaves the U.S. Supreme Court as the president-elect's likely last option to prevent the sentencing hearing from taking place Friday. His lawyers turned to the nation's highest court Wednesday after New York courts refused to postpone the sentencing by Judge Juan Merchan.
That's ABC's Chuck Sievertson. And the funeral for former President Jimmy Carter continues at this hour at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. That is the latest news. Weather is coming up next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 1031 on Super Talk. It's Chris Hand here for my friend Shane Ring over at Cover Nash. If you need some health insurance, call an expert. Call Shane Ring. He's got over 20 years of experience in health insurance, and he's going to shop the entire market for you to find the best plan. He's got over 75 different companies to shop from, and he can help you because he's got every type of plan available in the market. So no matter what your income or health situation is, he's got you. Don't let someone you know or yourself get taken advantage of by these call center agents with limited, overpriced health coverage. Shane can easily be saving you like 30 to 60% on your monthly premiums. And a lot of these plans that he can get you will even pay you when you use them. So go ahead and give Shane Ring a call today and let him know that Chris Hand sent you. He'll show you how much you could be saving on quality coverage today. Shane's number, 615-465-0023. Or you can hit his website, covernash.com. 615-465-0023. Covernash.com to book an appointment with Shane Ring. Get a quality health plan managed by you, not the government.
I hate to even ask this question, but the president-elect chose to attack you, blame you for this.
One can't even respond to it. I mean, people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say. I won't.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. Don't. I don't think he actually has anything to say. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. That was the governor of California, Newscomb, is how some people refer to him. Joining us live on Super Talk TV and on your radio, good friend of the show, Joe Bob. And Joe Bob, you spent some years you're running campaigns in California. You're very familiar with the politicals of Cali. Who do you put the blame on in this situation with the wildfires?
Well, first of all, you did pronounce it correctly. It is Newscomb, but I think you did mispronounce his title. I think he goes by dictator now, tyrant. I'm not sure which one is official, but it's definitely not governor of California. Who the blame is on? Holy cow, Chris! I am rocking and rolling. I've got my coffee in my Nashville Loveless Cafe cup.
All right.
I'm ready to take a rhetorical dump on the state of California. Who's to blame? Well, there's a lot of different things going on, and all of it falls at the hands of the massive supermajority Democrat Party, at least in my opinion. Now, we don't know specifically yet what has caused the Palisades fire, but also the 4 other fires that are going on in Southern California. But I will tell you that the reason that these are as bad as they are have a lot to do with the very, very, very terrible Democrat policies, not only in the state of California, but specifically in the city of Los Angeles. It is a deep blue city that if you have an R next to your name, there's not a shot that you get in. And lo and behold, the policies they've pushed have not gone well. The fire hydrants are out of water. The vegetation is overgrown. The electricity companies lobbying the state. Which direction would you like me to go off into?
I mean, you choose. I think it's dealer's choice at this point. I'm trusting your expertise.
Okay, so one thing that people have had a lot of attention to, we'll get to the electricity companies because I think that's fascinating in the fact that they bribed Gavin. But the water, right? The water not being in the fire hydrants, LA County just not having the water that they should have to fight these fires. Just so people know, California, I've been living here my entire life. Ever since I was born, ever since I can remember, there has been, well, we have to conserve water. We're in California. We have to conserve water. You can't water your lawns more than 3 minutes every other Thursday. But that's the big thing. That's the big talking point in California. California has not built new water storage in 45 years. In other words, there have not been any new reservoirs. There have not been any place to store water since 1980. They approved, I think, $8 billion worth of water storage funding in 2014, and yet none of it has actually come to fruition. There is a project, I think it's called the Sites Reservoir in California, that has been in the planning phase since 1950.
What?
It is absurd. If they're telling everybody to conserve water, but the state itself is not doing anything to actually follow its own advice. So is it terrible? I think I probably should have prefaced this. Is it terrible what's happening in the Palisades? Yes, we feel an extraordinary amount of grief for the families, but at the same time, there's huge mismanagement going on at the state level and the local level. One just being the water that they don't have.
Is the water stuff a huge scam? Like, I mean,
yeah.
I feel like I'm watching Jack Nicholson's Chinatown from 1974 again, where there's a big conspiracy at the water department. Is there a big conspiracy at the water department?
Conspiracy, I don't know. It really depends on how you look at conspiracy and corruption. All of the money that should go to building water storage ends up going to effectively bribes for the people that work at the water department, the unionized public employees that have super cush pensions that are totally underfunded, but that's a whole different separate topic that we don't necessarily need to get into. But every year, California sees millions and millions, possibly even billions of gallons that just get flushed away into the ocean. We don't capture the rain, and apparently we're not doing anything to fix that problem, despite the fact that Californians are constantly warned of needing to conserve water. Okay, well, if you guys aren't going to conserve water, then I'm not going to conserve water. I'll tell you, Chris, I run my sprinklers as much as I need to keep my lawn green, because I've got property value to uphold.
Yeah. All right. So that's the water department. What's the deal with the electricity department?
So we don't know what has specifically caused the fire, but let's just put this in the context of the dilapidated infrastructure within the California electrical system. You can also talk about the cap and trade policies. And sorry, I'm trying not to lose people in the weeds here. Separate thing, vegetation. Maybe we'll get to that. Maybe we won't. But the electricity specifically, in 2018, California had the Camp Fire that was the deadliest fire in California history. I think it killed upwards of 80 people. Now, the California utilities companies are effectively monopolies. So California Pacific Gas and Electric and Southern California Edison, those are effectively monopolies in their area that are regulated by the California Public Utilities Commission. The Camp Fire, which was caused by PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, killed 80 people. And what penalty did they pay? Okay, well, they were assigned a $1.9 billion penalty by the state, by the California Public Utilities Commission.
Okay.
Of that $1.9 billion, 1.8 of it was just written off. It was basically saying, well, we have to cover the damages. There's your penalty to the state. Okay, fine. That got public outrage. So the California Public Utilities Commission then fined them $200 million to go into the general fund. 2 years later, that fine was suspended. All that's to say is nobody ever paid a price for the dilapidated electricity grid causing a fire that killed 80 people. No one ever paid a price, not the company, not the commission. Okay, well, who appoints the California Public Utilities Commission? None other than King Gavin himself. There's 5 members of that board appointed by the governor. And you know what's really interesting too? In the run-up to Gavin becoming the governor/dictator of California, PG&E, the one who didn't get punished by the California Public Utilities Commission, gave Gavin's wife an exorbitant amount of money in donations to her nonprofit. Isn't that weird?
What a coincidence.
Gavin Newsom's wife runs a nonprofit that got a ton of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars from this company, and then in turn, the commission that Gavin himself appointed didn't get punished for killing 80 people because of their dilapidated equipment. All of that to say is it's going to happen again. I don't know whether this is caused by an electrical fire, but nothing got fixed, nothing got solved. Nobody had any sort of penalty to pay. There wasn't anything that would cause that company to change its course. And so if that's the case, this stuff is going to keep happening in California. Sorry, I know that was long-winded. I hope it was coherent enough.
Yeah,
but
no.
It's insane out here.
So that's the dictator. That's the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. That's PG&E, the electric company. That's the water company. What about the mayor, Karen Bass, cutting $17 million from the firefighter budget months ago?
Man, sorry, Chris. I hate to laugh because I'm fully cognizant of the fact this is a very difficult moment for a lot of families and a lot of Americans, whether or not I agree with them. But you don't want this to happen to anyone. But it's almost comical. This is the great I told you so of California politics, but politics around the world. Mayor Karen Bass talks so highly of how LA is leading the charge in, whatever, business, tech. First of all, it's just factually not true. And second, they are doing things that everybody here knew was happening. Now, this is not a national story, but people who live in Southern California saw the defunding of the police program, which I know is not necessarily relevant here, but also the reaverting funds from the fire department to homelessness, which, again, they've spent, I think, $1 trillion on homelessness, and it's gone up, so that's not working. But Karen Bass has done things that we've all said, this is not going to turn out well. This is not going to turn out well. And this is crazy. Lo and behold, it didn't turn out well. And she was off in a different country because for some reason, Angelenos need to make sure they have a strong relationship with the country of Ghana.
It doesn't make any sense.
Relevant.
And she was confronted by a Sky News reporter on her way back, and this is what that sounded like.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Can you back up? Appreciate it. Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position?
I mean, first, the reporter is an absolute savage, but what is going through Mayor Karen Bass's mind as this reporter just dresses her down?
If I were to be a cold-hearted political realist, Karen Bass's trajectory, she hopes, is to be the governor of the state. So the only thing she cares about right now, I believe this personally, I don't think she cares about the people. I don't think she cares about the businesses or the families that lost homes or structures. She doesn't care about any of that. She cares about avoiding criticism to keep her political trajectory alive. She was a congresswoman in the LA area for I don't know how many terms, and then decided to run for mayor of LA in an attempt to further her career to where she can run for governor of California probably when Gavin is out. And I guarantee you she's still going to do that. So I think not saying anything is not out of embarrassment or shame, of which it should be, but instead of, okay, I better keep my head down. Hopefully this all blows over. No pun intended, and I can still keep my gubernatorial hopes alive. That is what she actually is thinking, at least in my opinion. She doesn't actually care, and I know that sounds bad, but her political ambitions come first, and that's why I think she's not answering questions. She's not saying anything definitive other than we're doing our best. We're everything we've got.
Yeah.
Because she knows that this is a big enough scandal to where it could derail her political future.
But failing up is definitely within the realm of possibilities in California.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. Yeah, the more you fail, the more you get to do, especially on the lefty side of the aisle. There is an element of, well, this gets her name out there that I'm sure is, again, very, very cynical take. But yeah, it is. Failing up is a thing, especially in the deep blue state of California.
We're talking with California resident, Turning Point USA contributor Joe Bob. Real quick, though, is this going to be a red pill moment for a lot of these lefties in Los Angeles? Do you think that this is going to wake them up, or are they too far gone?
You know, this is an ongoing debate in conservative circles. Yes, should this be a red pill moment? Yeah, I 100% think it should be. But one of the most difficult sins to overcome is pride, and the pride of saying, yeah, I was wrong. I was optimistic, but I was wrong. I know a lot of friends who have done that sort of thing, especially in California, but it is a difficult thing to do. The other thing is, and again, I hate to delve into this in such a difficult time in California, but the logistics of all of this sort of stuff, the people that see the writing on the wall, I think might just end up leaving the state. And those people could have come to terms with reality and go, hey, this wasn't working. But, you know, unfortunately, their house is no longer there. They might now just go to a different place. And so that leaves the area with all the people that are too prideful to admit that they've been wrong for the last several decades. And so will it actually change something? I don't know. I was telling I don't want to go on this rant. How much time do you have?
Rant away, man.
I was telling my wife, you know, one of the things that could be really interesting in the political scope is how the insurance plays into this. There's a lot of people out there that are very, I understand the sentiment of this smells fishy. The insurance companies, for people who don't know, a bunch of the insurance companies canceled the fire insurance for a lot of the areas that were affected by the fires a couple of months ago. In the summer, I think State Farm pulled a ton of houses off of their insurance.
Yep.
And people, you know, obviously have their conspiracy theories. I actually don't think so. I think the actuarials at State Farm Insurance looked at the California government and the legislation and the fact that they don't do wildfire management, they don't do controlled burns, they don't have the infrastructure to take care of this. And they said, this is too risky. We're out. And so that's why I think they pulled their insurance. At some point, people have to have houses. People like that's just society in general. Like, we have to have Americans be able to buy houses. And two, you have to be able to insure those houses, especially if you have a mortgage, because the bank's not going to give you a mortgage if you don't have your house insured. So houses have to be owned by people, and insurance has to be affordable. I wonder, and this may be a pipe dream, I wonder if the insurance companies who see opportunity in California to make money will be the catalyst that puts an influx of capital into the non-woke politicians in California. And maybe that is what actually does it, because politics is money in California. That there's no place where that is truer. And I wonder if the insurance companies who are seeing their investments in California just go just awfully with the policies pushed by the Democrat Party, I wonder if they're the ones that come in and give the Republicans or conservatives, libertarians, whatever you want to call them, the non-woke, the capital they need to take back the local city areas, but maybe also even the state.
Man, that would be a very big catalyst for change. Do you think that at any level California realized that it might be cheaper to just not clean up these forests, not to sweep the forest floors, not to work on preventing these fires? It would be cheaper to just let it burn and then get the federal funds from FEMA after the fact?
Well, there's so many different avenues in there. One, I personally think that California is currently in a race to bankruptcy with the state of Illinois. I think the federal government will bail out the first state that files bankruptcy. I don't think they'll bail out the second one. I think the nation will go, hold on, maybe we need to check into how some of these states are doing business. And so there's a part of me that thinks in the deep-seated roots of the California legislature, they go, hey, how can we be the first state to bankruptcy as opposed to Illinois? Because they're battling to see who's going to be the first one. But at the same time, I think I don't see an avenue to where like this causes as much of a change as I think needs to take place. So I don't know. There's so many different variables involved. It really depends on whether or not the state can actually secure the funds to cover the cost for their own mismanagement.
Insane. Joe Bob, Turning Point USA contributor. I definitely want to have you on again as this starts to shake out and we get more information. They said it could have been fireworks that started the fire. Part of me thinks it was probably a homeless encampment, and that was a cover story. What do you think started the fire?
The Palisades fire. So people, again, maybe not familiar with that area. That's one of the richest areas, not only in the state, not only in the country, but in the world. The Pacific Palisades is one of the nicest neighborhoods on planet Earth. I don't know how many homeless people live there because they ship their homeless people to Santa Monica. We did a documentary over at the Daily Caller called Lawless, and a lot of people were saying, the Palisade police officers, and I'm not denigrating the police officers at all, but the system rather that's in place just ships the homeless people to the Santa Monica boardwalk. So I don't know that it was a homeless encampment, but even if it was a fireworks situation, okay, a lot of that has to do with the vegetation that California refuses to clear or do prescribed burns. We probably don't have enough time to get into why they don't do that, but it's there. They made up this dumb rule that says you can't emit CO2, and then they follow their own rule at the cost of having fires like this, which, spoiler alert, emits a lot of CO2.
Yep.
So I don't think it's a bum fire. Again, we'll see what it ends up being, but regardless, I think the cause, but also the response, is heavily the California policies that have been making the state worse and worse and worse over the last couple decades.
Joe Bob, I appreciate you joining the show. How can people keep up with you and find you online?
JOBOB, pretty much anywhere. I know it's a weird name. I love going to Nashville because it's less weird there than it is in California. JOBOB, pretty much anywhere, and you'll be able to find me.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for taking some time with us. It's 10:56 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And now all of Middle Tennessee is under that winter storm warning. Total snow accumulations between 3 and 6 inches before it's all said and done by midnight tomorrow night. Looks like the first flakes are going to start falling around 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. And once we get to the morning rush hour traffic, it looks like things will be deteriorating rapidly if this snowfall comes to fruition. BNA CEO Doug Crulin says the airport is prepared.
Supplied all of our equipment is ready to go, and for us, we'll start at midnight tonight with pre-treating all the roads, ramps, and runways out here, waiting for the snow to start.
Yeah, so if you've got a flight to catch, he says, get there at least 2 hours early. And right now in Tennessee, touchdown, Titans! The Titans' Mike Keith has just been named the new voice of the Vols. He'll be replacing Bob Kessling, who served as the voice of the Vols for 25 years. Keith will be calling Vols football and men's basketball teams. And firefighters in Los Angeles are getting more help, both from firefighters and from other states, and from air support as they try to get a handle on the wildfires. Los Angeles County Fire Department Captain Sheila Kelleher, speaking to ABC News this morning, says the Santa Ana winds have eased a bit.
The winds are starting to lay down, and we're not out of the woods yet, but what we can do now is really hit it hard from our aerial attacks, and those helicopters and air support really make a difference.
Growing concern, though, about the toxic smoke from the fires. ABC's Mola Linge reports from Altadena, California.
People with lung disease, heart disease, children, elderly folks, pregnant women, folks with underlying health conditions, folks who spend a lot of time outside. All of these folks are at an elevated risk, but the risk not just limited to those groups. The air quality right now is in such a dangerous range that health officials say every one of the millions of people in this region is at a greater risk.
And the death toll stands at 5. In our nation's capital.
This is a special report from ABC News celebrating Jimmy Carter. I'm Sherry Preston. The formal farewell to the nation's 39th president is underway right now. Sitting in the first 2 rows at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., President Biden and former presidents Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump. President Biden delivering a eulogy at the funeral. And, says ABC's Terry Moran,
after the funeral here, Carter will make one final trip home to Plains, Georgia, where the family will have a private funeral and where he will be buried at home next to his wife of 77 years, Rosalind Carter, in the town where both of them were born.
Other speakers today at this service include Steve Ford reading remarks written by his father, former President Gerald Ford, before his death. Also, Ted Mondale reading remarks from his father, former Vice President Walter Mondale, before he died.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
y'all. So there are firefighters putting out a fire in this home right behind me. And I actually stopped and I talked to one of them because this building over here, the Bank of America, they were trying to stop the fire there, but then it ended up reigniting, essentially getting even bigger. And I asked them, hey, what ended up happening with that? He said that the fire was located in the attic, and they now have this toller truck that's going in from the top and trying to kill the flames from there. But he was saying they're just spread so thin right now that they don't have the resources to essentially put out all of these small fires, obviously. And then he was stating too, because I asked about, hey, is there water here? What's going on with that? He says so far all of these blue hydrants aren't good, and they haven't been able to get water from them. So
That's the reporting of Savanna Hernandez, who is on the ground in California at the wildfires. Savanna being kind enough to take some time to speak with us now, live from California. Mason, can you pot her up real quick? Sav, how you doing? What's it like out there on the ground?
Hey, Chris, thank you so much for having me on. Honestly, this has been one of the most overwhelming stories that I've ever had to cover, just because of how vast, how fast spreading, and how destructive these fires have been to LA County, coupled, of course, with the, humanity side of this, watching people cry as they look at their homes destroyed, their lives destroyed. It's been absolutely insane to see the destruction happening here in California right now.
Can I ask you like a logistics question before we get into everything else? How, when you get into an area like this, where are you staying? I'm assuming a lot of these hotels are slammed. How close are you to these fires where you're staying? And did you have to fly into San Diego to get to LA?
So I was actually in San Diego covering the homeless crisis over there. I had no idea that this was going to be happening because let's not forget that these fires started on, Tuesday morning. So I was already in the San Diego area. Funny enough, I'm touring this homeless encampment, and I was there with a local resident because she was stating that a fire chief had tipped her off to this location because it was a hot spot for wildfires. So I was actually focused in on this issue, was not here for the fires at all, and ended up driving up yesterday morning when I saw how destructive everything was becoming. Decided to just make my way up here to start covering this issue as well.
So once you get there, where do you start? I mean, these fires are so vast and so massive. I'm sure that you're just, it must feel like you're spread thin in this situation.
Absolutely. I can't even imagine how the fire department and the firefighters have been feeling over these last 2-3 days, honestly. I guess it's only been 2 days. It felt like such a long period of time just, watching all of this unfold. So, again, for listeners, the Palisades fire is already at over 17,000 acres. You had those three main fires yesterday, the Pacific Palisades, the Eaton fire, and Altadena. And then you also had the Hearst fire. That one was a little bit smaller, still spanning about 500 acres. And then last night we also saw the Sunset fire in the Hollywood Hills begin. I believe that one has since been contained, but you're seeing all of these fires pop up. And I remember I was tracking this as we were making our way up from San Diego. Again, many of these fires, pretty much all of them starting off at a couple hundred acres, now expanding, thousands of acres. We are seeing thousands of buildings, homes, schools, of course, small businesses completely destroyed. I've been speaking to residents who, have been in tears because the cities and towns they grew up in are just completely gone and demolished. And then you have the firefighters as well, who not only are so spread thin because of lack of firefighters in their departments, but also the fact that these fire hydrants in these various communities have just completely run out of water. You also have the residents who are saying they haven't had electricity for, the past 24, at this point, probably 48 hours. I believe the numbers as it stands now are that you have about 350,000 energy customers that have no power as of today. So again, there's so many angles to this situation, and it's just absolute devastation right now.
I've been following your work on Twitter. Savanna Hernandez is on the line. She's on the ground in California at these wildfires at Sav_says on X, and it looks like a war zone. Have you ever, and I know you cover a lot of crazy stories, have you ever seen a city that looks as terrible as this does where you are right now?
I haven't personally, but I did run into a friend on the ground yesterday who covered Minneapolis during the riots in 2020. He said the scene is very similar to that. But of course, These are historic wildfires here in LA County, and we were in just Altadena. We didn't even make it over to Pacific Palisades. I mean, keep in mind that a lot of these roads are now shut down. So it has been a little bit difficult to gain access to these areas. We were in the Altadena area. And again, it's just so heartbreaking to see just these entire towns absolutely destroyed, these buildings on fire. The fire department, there's really nothing that they can do regarding the building that I was talking about in that report that you played. It's this Bank of America, and what ended up happening was they kind of tried to quell the flames. They ended up moving onto a home. Because the wind speeds are so strong right now, these smoldering homes end up reigniting. The fires get huge again. They don't have enough water to put it out. So again, just truly third world scenes, Chris. Why in California, why in the United States of America is this the response? It's just nothing like I've ever seen.
Hey, man, we got money for Ukraine. We have money for the Taliban. We have money for illegal aliens. But in the second largest city in America, we don't have water in our fire hydrants. It's insane. What is the movement like on the ground? How restricted is everything? I imagine in a disaster scene this big, the police are spread thin too. How are they able to restrict movement? You mentioned that, you're in Altadena now and you're not able to get up to other areas of the fire. Is that because of fire damage or is it because of local authorities?
You know what? I think that sorry, Chris, can you ask that again? As we're talking, I'm getting so many tips and things that are coming in on my phone. Ask me that again. I'm so sorry about that. How
much of your lack of being able to move around the area are police restrictions and authorities restricting movement or fire damage?
As of now, it's mostly the police blocking things off. And something interesting that was happening yesterday as well is you had multiple residents in the Altadena area that were trying to get back to their own homes because they had resorted to buying fire hoses themselves and trying to bring them back to their homes. This was around noon when we got to the location, but apparently these residents at the 7 a.m. hour were able to go up into their neighborhoods, check on their homes. They were trying to put out, again, some of the, just the smoldering ash that was surrounding or near their homes, resorting to going and buying their own water hoses. The police ended up blocking off the area. The fire chief telling the resident, hey, you can come back to your home. The police saying, I don't take my orders from the fire chief, so you can't go to your home. Sorry, there's nothing we can do about it. So, again, the communication very much lacking in this area. And then regarding the residents, keep in mind, they haven't had electricity as well. So I was talking to a couple of them who shared that the only information they're really getting is from outside family members because they haven't had access to TV. They haven't had access to information about what's going on outside of their community.
Is cell service down in a lot of these areas as well?
Yes, you're going to see cell service down. Again, a lot of electrical wires down. There were gas leaks in the neighborhoods that we were driving through yesterday. Truly, and again, the lack of water, Chris, the lack of water has just been absolutely insane. So many pointing out that California hasn't built a new water reservoir since the 1980s, and then also many people wanting a response from, the elected officials who are supposed to be in charge right now. Think Gavin Newsom or LA Mayor Karen Bass, in saying that she was in Africa as all of this is going down. She finally makes her way back over to LA and really has no response to the citizens, no response to this intense devastation that, again, she was very much complicit in as she was involved in a $17 million budget cut to the fire department in Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, hey, you had to redivert those funds for homeless shelters that are no longer standing, right? How much reports are you hearing of individuals lighting fires in non-burning urban areas of LA? I've seen this all over Twitter, be it homeless and also reports of masked men lighting fires. Are you hearing or seeing any of this on the ground?
I have not seen any masked men lighting fires, but I have seen the homeless fires. Again, I saw one in San Diego as soon as I had entered a homeless encampment. So this is absolutely an issue. And again, many people, too, in the Hollywood Hills area asking the question, how did this fire start yesterday? They really do think that one was tied to arson because I was talking to a local and they were like, yeah, I don't think there's any electrical wires up there. There's really not anybody up there. We have no idea what's going on. We really feel like arson is at play here. And then, you go down to the middle of Hollywood, and you're going to see the homeless lighting those fires. You're going to see these encampments. And so, Chris, again, the reason this story has been so overwhelming as well is because not only are you seeing these budget cuts to the fire department, not only are you seeing the DEI implemented to make sure that capable firefighters aren't hired, but then simultaneously you have the homeless that are lighting fires. This has been an issue that's been going on for a long time. You have the water reservoirs that haven't been built. So California truly has tried to protect the environment for basically everything but human beings.
It's unbelievable. Savanna Hernandez, investigative reporter, Frontlines, Turning Point USA on the line. She's in California at the wildfires. As you kind of start your day today, it's 9 o'clock in LA. Where are you turning your attention first? Where do you think the story really is?
Honestly, Chris, I think the story right now is in California and how they have managed not only, again, their fire prevention, but what led to this situation getting so out of control. Because, yes, fires do occur naturally in California. Of course, we're going to see those strong winds coming in because they live on the coast. But why is it that if we know that this is a reoccurring problem, that nothing has been done to solve it? And again, so many people are bringing up the old clips of Donald Trump, for example, talking about the prevention that could have been done, the measures that could have been taken to stop this type of destruction, and it never happened. So the big story here is holding the officials responsible who are in charge of making sure things like this don't happen and really trying to solve the problem and finally get this under control.
As you're going through these neighborhoods, you know, there's also the human element to it. It's like there's two angles. It's the politics and the people. How hard has it been for you watching people lose everything?
I mean, it's been heartbreaking. I really have tried to, tread lightly here because typically when I'm out on the scene, I'm going up to people. I'm like, hey, let's do an interview. What are your thoughts? With this situation, it's really been me talking to people off camera because, of course, it's a very emotional time. I walked up to a woman yesterday who just had tears in her eyes and she was bawling as she stood in front of her smoldering home. So I spoke with her on that, and it's just really the human emotion here. It's devastating. It's devastating. People who have built their lives here, it's all completely gone. And again, it is California leadership who has played a huge part in this.
Were you mentally prepared to see what you're seeing on the ground there?
Unfortunately, yes. I feel like I have, seen the worst of the worst in the United States of America, and I am fully aware of even, regarding the homeless camps and just how bad these issues have gotten. Like, I was expecting this, and it's, I think, disappointing more than anything that this is to be expected out of California. But again, for a lot of people who perhaps maybe weren't paying attention to the leadership here or how bad things could have gotten and how quickly, I know that seeing these images is shocking. And of course, because I'm only seeing it on the ground level in one area, when you really do that zoom out, right? When we're seeing those aerial shots of the destruction, it's heartbreaking to anybody and quite shocking to everyone.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of local LA news, and it seems like they're trying to cover for leftist officials in the government. And I just want to say it's refreshing to have an honest reporter on the ground. So I want to thank you for your bravery. Where can people keep up with you and your reporting and see, a real look into what's happening on the ground in California?
Go follow me on X at @Sav_says. Go follow the Frontlines TPUSA account as well. I am actually heading home today. Again, this was supposed to be a San Diego trip for me. I was not expecting to cover the fires, but made my way up for the day yesterday. So we have another reporter who will be on the ground. So again, go follow Frontlines TPUSA. And then I will most likely be doing my own kind of coverage and trying to bring together all of these pieces so people can get that good understanding of how we really got here. So thank you so much, Chris.
Hey, thank you for being out there. Thank you for your time. Savanna Hernandez, she's on Twitter at @Sav_says. It's 11:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, No lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Right now in Mount Juliet, we have a crash with power lines down. It is impacting 40 westbound at Mount Juliet Road. That's going to be exit 226. We got a crash blocking the left lane, 65 northbound, right before Vietnam Veterans Boulevard. Winter storm update, and progress has been made fighting the California wildfires. All of this and more at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's 11:25 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. We love those guys. Thank you to the guests that we've had on the show today, Joe Bob, Savanna Hernandez. Just fascinating stuff coming out of California. I am absolutely mesmerized by this story. There's so many angles to it, and it's so sad at the exact same time. L.A. County Sheriff Robert Luna making an announcement that we all kind of knew was coming, but it's still not one you want to hear. Saying, unfortunately, they think the death toll will be rising.
From the New York Times. For Chief Luna, I just wanted to follow up on what you said about you weren't satisfied with the information that you were getting on fatalities. It's been widely reported that there were 5 deaths, at least 5 deaths. Do you believe that death toll is not accurate, and do you think it's less than that?
Based on all the information that I've received in the last probably 8 hours, I want to be more confident in the specific information that I'm getting. So what we're doing now is going back through everything because you got to understand the urgency, the chaotic nature of what we're dealing with, and we're still in the middle of that. So I want to make sure that as we go forward, at least for the sheriff's department, we're actually having our homicide unit involved, because they don't only do murder investigations, they do death investigations, that I'm going to change the system and verify each number. Because I don't care if it's just one, that's somebody's family. That's somebody we love and care for. Yep. So I want to make sure that's solid before we start presenting that information. Unfortunately, based on the preliminary information I've seen, at least in the two large fires that we're dealing with on each side of the county, unfortunately, I think the death toll will rise.
I mean, it's heartbreaking, but you look at the devastation, it's hard not to come to that conclusion. It's hard not to feel the exact same way. Mayor Karen Bass is also taking to the podium a few minutes ago and trying to save face after what has been a PR nightmare for her, being in Ghana while these fires have broken out.
Mayor, LA County is in a panic state. It began 2 days ago with the Palisades fire. My crew and I arrived shortly after it started, and for several hours we watched as hundreds of homes in a neighborhood burned to the ground. We did not see a single fire engine. We watched as Good Samaritans guided traffic. There was fear and there was a lot of confusion. You were out of the country at the time. Shortly after the fire started, a press release was put out warning of this fire behavior. My question to you is, what explains this lack of preparation and rapid response?
Well, I mean, I think the lack of preparation and rapid response, you can go down a number of different angles. Could it be that she cut the firefighters' budget by $17 million? Could it be the fire chief prioritizes DEI over common sense policy? Could it be that the governor of California has ignored all of the warnings and all of the help he could have received in the years previous? Maybe she's going to say that. Probably not.
Let me just say, first and foremost, my number one focus, and I think the focus of all of us here with one voice, is that we have to protect lives, we have to save lives, and we have to save homes.
I mean, it's a lot harder, though, when you cut the firefighters' budget by $17 million. It's a lot harder to do that when there's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. Every time I hear this woman talk, I get more and more infuriated. I wish my grandfather was still here today. He was a firefighter his entire life. He showed up at the fire department, and from the moment he could take the test to become a firefighter, he was a firefighter. He's the type of guy that if he knew that I only had a couple fire extinguishers in my home right now, he'd be very disappointed in me. I wish he was here to tell me what he thinks of these answers. I wish he was here to tell me what he thinks of the lack of preparedness for the firefighting in LA. It's not the rank and file's fault. Make no mistake about that. It's leadership's fault. I'll play you the rest of what Mayor Karen Bass has to say their priorities are when we return after the headlines with Ken Weaver. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. 4 to 6 inches of snow expected tomorrow, with the first flakes falling right before rush hour. And when they do, road conditions are going to deteriorate rapidly across Middle Tennessee. We've got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Now, if you have a flight to catch tomorrow, BNA CEO Doug Crulin telling WTN's Nashville's Morning News they're ready for the winter storm. They're going to start pre-treating the roads and ramps to get there at midnight tonight. All you have to do is get there early.
I'd get here 2 hours early, but before coming, I'd also check with my airline to see if they, if you're going to Dallas, the flight from Dallas may not have come in. So check with your airline to see if there's any delays. If you're going north or south.
Right now in California, firefighting efforts continue across Los Angeles County to try to slow several destructive wildfires before strong Santa Ana winds return. Progress has been made in several of the fires, according to officials, but residents are being asked to remain on alert. Here's Alex Stone.
Here, at least in Altadena, there is pretty much no wind any longer. That's a big change. It's not even breezy. There is no wind here right now. But the concern is later on tonight. The forecast has the Santa Ana winds coming back in. Not as strong as Wednesday morning, but still 40 to 60 miles an hour. There's a lot of flame in these buildings, in the hills, that could really take off in that wind. So it's a concern of what's coming in tonight.
Right now in our nation's capital,
You may say I'm a dreamer.
as Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood performing Imagine at former President Jimmy Carter's state funeral at the National Cathedral in Washington. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. It's 11:32 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, here for my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. And it's that time of year. It's getting cold. Have you gotten your heater serviced yet? I mean, if it's not working the way it needs to be, you're feeling it these last couple days, and you're going to be feeling it all weekend long. Call Busy Bee. Get that maintenance done. And if you need something from Busy Bee, it's a new year, new comfort. They got some winter warm-up specials that aren't going to break the bank. When it comes to HVAC, you can't beat these deals. You get a free air duct cleaning with a purchase of a new complete whole home AC. You can get a free air duct cleaning package upgrade. You buy that middle package, you get the deluxe package. How about this? A free furnace checkup with any heating repair service. That could come in handy big time right now. If your heat's not working, you should call your Rude Pro partner. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. And if you need to replace the whole system, how about this? A complimentary smart thermostat with any HVAC replacement. That's a $200 value. That's from your Rude Pro partner, Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Call them today, 615-775-7833, 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spice and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
It's 11:36 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. Show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. We've spent the majority of the show talking about the California wildfires, but there's a story that broke in Middle Tennessee yesterday that I definitely feel like we need to cover. Trende Aragua? Question mark? 5 in custody after a sex trafficking investigation in Antioch. That's interesting. WKRN has the story. Wonder if Phil Williams will look into this one. Maybe. A federal investigation into a possible brothel blocked a portion of Hobson Pike in Antioch Wednesday morning. Large police presence was spotted in the 2300 block of Hobson Pike near Hamilton Church Road around 6 a.m. Metro Police blocked a portion of traffic while agents with the Department of Homeland Security searched the property with a large amount of vehicles. Tactical officers were seen breaking windows of multiple vehicles parked in the lot. Spokesperson for Metro Police and the department assisted HSI agents with the execution of a search warrant for human trafficking operations, including a brothel at the 5-acre Hobson Pike property. As officers approached the home, 5 men ran away, 2 of which ran across Hobson Pike and were captured later near Percy Reese Lake. According to Metro Police, Hobson Pike was temporarily closed while officers searched for the men. This was breaking all day yesterday. Metro Nashville Public Schools spokesperson said the situation didn't have an impact on schools, but one of the 5 men was wanted by Metro Police in connection with a September shooting at a suspected brothel on Mount View Road. So 2 brothels, if you're keeping score at home. All 5 men were taken into custody. Authorities later identified the 5 men, and I'm not going to attempt to say their names. But the investigation is also linked to the deadly shooting of 3 men at a home on Bart Drive. So that's 2 shootings. 2 brothels, 2 shootings. And then the Metro Nashville Police Department spokesperson, Don Aaron, said there's no danger to the community. The community can be assured that our PD and our federal partners have been working diligently since last year to further this investigation, and we're taking it step by step, meticulously and methodically. And what you're seeing this morning is part of that. No danger to the community. 2 shootings, 2 brothels. According to the court documents, the men used business cards to promote prostitution at the home. Undercover officers reportedly messaged the number about prostitution services, would receive the home's address, images of semi-nude women. Inside the home, officers found several small rooms that were portioned off to fit a mattress with a curtain for a door, according to Metro Police. Officers also located condoms, lingerie, and a ledger with names, dates, and what appeared to be how many clients each name had serviced that day. Agencies involved in the lengthy investigation include HSI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and MNPD's Specialized Investigation Unit. No additional information was immediately released. And I just want to say that WTN has reached out to many of these cats. The spokesperson, Dan, reached out to the spokesperson. Joan Jones reached out for comment, and we got nothing. No responses back. And maybe it's because of the questions that WTN might ask. And what questions might we ask? Well, I mean, for starters, I want to know, were these members of Trende Aragua? Were they? Are these men citizens of the United States? I think we all know the answer to that, but I want to ask the question. Now, we know Trende Aragua is operating in at least 3 cities in Tennessee, right? At least. Reports in Nashville, Chattanooga, Memphis. I mean, they're all over the state. Another question I would want to ask is, do you remember those flights in the dead of night to Chattanooga that were reported a long time ago? Marsha Blackburn spoke up about that. I would ask, did the Biden administration fly in members of Trende Aragua? Or did they fly in the victims who were being sex trafficked? That's a question I would ask. Maybe that's why they didn't want to answer the phone for WTN. Don't worry, though. Metro Nashville PD spokesperson Don Aaron said there's no threat, no danger to the community, as we have violent gangs roaming about, running at least 3 brothels in the Nashville area, connected to at least 2 shootings. At least. Don't worry. Nothing to see here. Now, listen, I credit these guys for actually busting this brothel and taking them down, but don't gaslight us. Don't gaslight us. There's absolutely a danger to this community. There's a danger to every community right now because of that wide open southern border via the Biden administration. It's only a handful of Tren de Aragua members. Don't worry. Okay. This is what they tell us. In 11 days, we're going to get Donald Trump back in office. And with him is going to come one Tom Homan. And that's going to change everything. Now, I honestly do. I credit these guys for making those busts. I credit the police. I credit TBI, Homeland Security. I'm glad that they busted this up. But how long has this been going on? How many more are there? How old were the victims? These are questions that I have. What were their connections to Tren de Aragua? We understand that Tren de Aragua dabbles a bit in human trafficking. What other crimes were they involved in? 2 of the men were tied to different shootings. Okay. Were they also selling drugs? These are questions that we need to ask. These are questions that we need to answer. And come 11 days from now, we're going to have a border czar that hopefully will stop allowing these type of people into our country. Tom Homan said, listen, we're going to be concentrating on public safety threats. Now, the Metro Nashville Police Department said there's no threat. There's no threat to the community. No danger to the community. I would disagree with that assessment. I would disagree with that. And I hope that Tom Homan has a plan for Middle Tennessee. You see, we're in one of the spots that we deal with everything, man. They're coming through here no matter which way you're coming from. If you're getting drugs from Florida and you're bringing them out west, they're coming through Tennessee. If you're getting drugs from the southern border and you're going up to New York, they're coming through Tennessee. TBI has a tough gig when it comes to battling this stuff. And our administration in charge at the federal level currently has done an awful job at making their job easier. But that's going to be changing very, very soon.
The President Trump's been clear, as I've been clear from day one, that President is going to concentrate on public safety threats and national security threats. And have you heard from your previous segments, we have a huge national security issue in this country.
Yeah. We have violent gang members from South America coming into our country in large numbers. Metro Nashville Police Department spokesperson Don Aaron said, no, there's no danger to the community. I disagree.
The southwest border has become the biggest national security vulnerability we've seen in this nation. FBI Director Wray agrees with me. We know there's people in this country who pose a national security threat. They've arrested a record number of people on the terrorist watch list, a 3,500% increase in people on the terrorist watch list being arrested at the border. We got over 2 million known gotaways. We know 2 million people crossed the border, weren't arrested, weren't vetted, weren't fingerprinted. So you got to ask yourself, why did 2 million people pay more to get away? Why didn't they pay less, turn themselves into Border Patrol, get a free airline ticket to the city of their choice, get a free hotel room, get 3 meals a day, get free medical care?
I'm not disputing that it is a hemisphere-wide crisis. We're talking about how you're going to deal with it. That's why I'm asking you, when you say criminals, does that mean you are going to go into already existing prisons at local level and deport people who are in those prisons? Are you going to go to workforces? I mean, how do you know where the criminals are?
I mean, let's be perfectly honest. If you're in this country illegally, you are a criminal. You broke the law. Like, that's a tough pill to swallow for liberals and leftists, but deal with it. When are we going to get some real reporting in this state? You know, Phil Williams, I've seen some of his reporting lately. It's like, oh, did you know that there's a white supremacist community popping up? Christian nationalists? Okay. Phil Williams, I got a text here. Phil Williams would rather go after the reputation of cops that make the arrests in child trafficking rather than the reports about the trafficking arrests. Maybe. I would love, listen, people give Phil a lot of credit. Phil, look into this one, can you? Because when WTN calls, we get no response. I wonder why. It's probably the questions that we're going to ask. Again, 11 days away, things are going to change.
I guess is the question. And if they're working at a work site, are you going to show up to surprise them?
Well, look, we know where a lot of the criminals are. ICE they're great at this work. We know where some are, but they simply haven't been able to go arrest them because of Secretary of Mayorkas' priorities. It handcuffed ICE. So we know where a lot of criminals are. They've been been prevented from arresting that we're going to arrest starting day one. As far as being in jails and prisons, we would love to work in local jails, but sanctuary cities won't allow us into those jails. It's much easier to arrest a public safety threat and the safety and security of public jail than out in the street, because the officer is safer that way, the alien is safer that way, the community is safer that way. But sanctuary cities who continue to release public safety threats back in the community, to the immigrant community, it puts that community at greater risk of crime. And here's what's going to happen when we go to the community and find that person, find that criminal alien. He's probably going to be with others we'll have to arrest. So it's not safe for the community, not safe for the officers, not safe for anybody. Let us arrest a bad guy in the jail cell where you chose to arrest somebody and put him in a jail cell because obviously he's a public safety threat.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a large, overwhelming number of people crossing the southern border are public safety threats. If I was a betting man, that bust in Antioch at the brothel, illegal aliens. If I was a betting man, Tren de Aragua. If I was a betting man, we're not going to hear any of that from the mainstream media in Nashville. This story is going to disappear faster than the overnight flights to Chattanooga. Mark my words. If only we had some real journalists or, brave officials willing to blow the whistle on this. And if you are a brave official willing to blow the whistle on this, tell me about the Tren de Aragua members that were arrested, which I think they probably were. Send me an email, chris.hand@cumulus.com. chris.hand@cumulus.com. I'll keep your identity secret. I think the public deserves to know how many of these people are operating within our city. And Lord willing, we'll find out. I know everybody here at WTN is paying attention to this story very, very closely, and we will be bringing you the latest as it develops. It's 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 11:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC. Chad Benson in studio.
That is, what is that, Monkey?
Yeah, Dance Monkey.
Dance Monkey. That's Charlie's, my little 6-year-old, favorite song of all time.
It's a great song.
Have you ever seen her when she's like in like a
in
mall?
the New York City subway?
Yeah, or wherever she's like, Dance Monkey, Dance Monkey. Like,
before she got famous?
Oh, yeah, it was awesome.
It was very cool. Very cool.
awesome.
I've seen those videos. It's a jam.
It is a jam. It's a jam, baby.
I'll be honest with you. I think I like my bumper music a little bit better than yours. Yours rocks, though.
Well, mine's rock.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference. You know, like so we get the Pistols and stuff. That's who I am. Although I love this music. I love any music.
Music is good. What do you got? What do you got on the brain today? What are you thinking about? There's so many stories happening. I covered the fires a lot today.
Yeah, a little bit of the fires. We'll probably talk a bit about that. We're going to talk a bit about climate change.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, yes, it's super serious.
Is it in the room with us right now?
It is. It's man, bear, pig. I can't find you. We're gonna, we got some fun stuff to talk about. Bonnaroo. We're gonna make fun of Bonnaroo.
Okay.
Because Bonnaroo, they announced the lineup. I have no idea who 99% of these people are.
They announced who's on the lineup?
Like Luke Combs is going to headline one night, and then you've got Olivia Rodrigo one night. You've got Tyler, the Creator, and then you're thinking, okay, cool. Like, because when you see Coachella, it's
you lost 90% of our audience after Luke Combs.
Yeah,
I'm following
Nelly,
Tyler, the Creator.
Like, I'm pumped. I'd go see Nelly in a heartbeat. I love Nelly. I love Nelly.
I thought he wasn't even able to sell out anything lately.
But he, it's funny. It's like he's still big enough. You would think, okay, he's got to be the second or third. No, Red Clay Strays is going to be there. That's cool. But I'm always fascinated. Because I like to go, okay, who's the bottom person that you can barely read that you think is going to be headlining next year?
What's the worst concert you've ever been to?
Oh, God, I've been to some awful concerts. Worst concert I've ever been to. Man, I went to a reggae concert one time, and I thought, my God. Boom Shaka.
Really?
They did one song, I think. That's the only thing I went to see Ashwad, which is another reggae band. They're amazing. But the Boom Shaka opened for them, and they were awful. I think they just played one song for like 3 hours.
I went to see Bone Thugs and Harmony one time. I was in Richmond, and I'm like, I love Bone Thugs and Harmony. I was very excited. We show up. I kid you not, there were more people on stage than were in the audience.
Yeah.
To the point where it was almost uncomfortable. Like I would be hurting their feelings if I left because there was about 8 of us watching this concert.
Oh my God. And this was after the hits?
This is like 2010. Like they're making eye contact with us.
I might be in the band.
It felt like a personal concert. Like if you bought like a big entertainer for your personal party, that's what it felt like. And I remember at one point I'm like, I really want to leave, but I don't want to hurt their feelings.
Man, that sucks. Yeah, I've been to some horrible concerts. When I was a kid growing up, because we didn't have all the stuff, now you're like, what do they really sound like? Because a lot of times you get places and you're like, they don't sound anything like that. But, then you get surprised that some people sound way better in person. Rap's an interesting thing because there's so much stuff they put on rap.
Yep.
And it's a struggle.
The production,
the
auto-tune.
is bigger. The auto-tune for sure.
The speed up, the edits.
Yeah, they never, like Eminem sounds like he does. Snoop sounds like he does.
Yep.
But it's never the same as when you go and see a band that plays. It's never the same because it's not. You're never going to find that.
Nope.
So.
What's the best concert you've ever been to?
Best concert I've ever been to. Simply Red was amazing. Garth Brooks in Ireland was incredible. This is before,
I bet that was insane.
This was like in '96 when he was at the just taking off.
Oh, and then you get the other side of that because you're in Europe.
Yeah,
everybody's extra jazzed because they're this might never
Ireland
happen again.
Is country music for a lot of so that was huge.
Ireland likes Ireland.
They love country. Yeah, well,
really?
they believe country music came from them essentially.
Okay.
Because it's a lot of the fiddle, it's a lot of that kind of stuff.
Got you.
Bit of the folk music. So that was, I've seen some incredible concerts, but when you go see some of these bands, you're just like, that's the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yes.
Right? Like, what's the worst thing you've ever seen?
I mean, it was that Bone Thugs and Harmony concert.
The best one you've ever seen?
Best one I've ever seen. I did the second iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Okay.
So I got to see Prince with Mary J. Blige, and
awesome.
in one night it was like Bon Jovi, Green Day, Red Hot Chili Peppers. I mean, just boom, 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 boom down the line all the way to Lil Wayne. It was like that was phenomenal. But it was almost like overload because Rihanna closed night one, and by the time Rihanna got on, and she was like a megastar at that point, like all of her hits were out. Everybody was just burnt.
Yeah.
Like the crowd was leaving. It was like one of those shows where you don't want to be the closer.
No, I saw, one of the coolest things I ever saw. So I was working at KZLA, a country station in LA, and we were doing, it was this big barbecue fest in LA. And they were going to have James Brown. It was the headliner. So we're getting everything set up. James Brown shows up like 4 hours before to do a sound check. So we figured he's just going to do James Brown stuff and just walk off stage. He did a full 2 hours, and it was me and this other dude just standing there, and that was it. With his entire band. He was doing the splits and the whole 9 yards. And we're like, is that really happening? It was crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then he came back and he did like 2.5 hours later on that day. And he was like
wild.
65 or 70 at the time.
I love it.
Yeah, it was crazy.
What do you got coming up on the show today?
I'll talk a little bit about the chaos out there, which is, it's so insane what's going on. But then juxtapose that with what's happening in Texas because they're getting ready to go through another freeze and how they're handling it. After they'd made mistakes a few years ago, Ted Cruz.
Well, I literally brought that up. I said, the celebrities are so silent today in the light of the incompetence by their government. Well, not all of them, but the majority of them.
Yeah.
The mayor's in Ghana, no outcry. Yet when Ted Cruz was on vacation during that ice storm, both the left and the right called him out for that.
As he should have been. I mean, it was kind of a weird thing. You feel like you're abandoning it because if you would have been in Cancun, I don't think people would have been so angry, but you went to Cancun.
Yeah.
So, and it came back. I was just taking my daughter. Well, you don't fly the plane, right?
I said Karen Bass is at, she went, I am on my break.
Yes, that's basically what she was. When she got off that plane yesterday, she looked like she had never seen human beings before.
That Sky News reporter was a savage.
Yeah,
do you have that audio?
I do, and you know what I was laughing about? I almost thought, is this a parody? Like it felt like this guy is just I'm waiting for Ashton Kutcher to jump out.
Or like somebody just had a video of her standing there and they like overlaid the questions in.
It's crazy. And she's just like looking around.
Deer in the headlights.
Yeah, totally. So crazy. So we're talking about that, a bunch of other baloney. Like where do your Christmas presents go after you return them?
Oh.
To Amazon and stuff. It's really interesting where they end up.
I never even thought about that.
No. But you should because they're a lot cheaper.
No kidding.
Yeah.
All right. Chad Benson's in next. He's going to save you a little money. It's 12 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.